Probably not.
I'll have it over here.
and taught from generations of leaders who have shared their songs with us that we'll share with you today. One of the things I want to share with you is that a couple of the songs, the Eagle songs that we'll be doing, we lost our beloved dance group leader this last year, Leona Santiago, and so we won't be completing those songs because our work is not done. Until her Memorial Week is taken care of, our business is not over. But we want to sing and dance in her loving memory because that's what she wanted us to do. And so we continue to carry our healing with and loss of her when we're here sharing it with you. So this is called our love song performance, and this just allows us to share all of our love with all of you who are just coming to visit our community in our town, those of you who live here, those who are amongst us daily. We just want to make sure that you're bestowed with all the love from our Tlingit Ani, from the Eagle Raven Dancers, Shuká Hít. It's a beautiful song. Once again, like I said, these are love songs. And the last verse just really touches me. It's just like, hold my, close and hold my hand close to you as he was singing to his dying beloved one next to him. And we didn't, as I said, we didn't finish the song because of the loss of Leona. But we did sing out to our in-laws. And so when we said, Kawdiyaayi, we're talking to our in-laws. And we're always trying to recognize our in-law. So appreciate our in-laws that stood up. We're doing, our next song is for Rosita. This is the Raven Dance song, and this is the one that Nathan Jackson danced, and before that his mother, Nancy, always danced. And Nathan decided at the last celebration he was getting too old, and he passed it down to Brandon. And Brandon is the Raven for, and this is Shuká Hít, our clan, one of our clan songs. And so he's now bestowed the honor of carrying the Raven dance song. And he'll be pursuing his eagle here today. Yakana City. called Shuká Hít. And once again, this is a raven song. So these are our men dancers. Shuká Hít. in Juneau, in our historical place where we have fish for time immemorial, in the same place where our houses were and stood. We go there, we have a camp to teach our kids. This is one of our favorite songs, Shuká Hít. Again, it's a love song, but kids can relate to it because they're always trying to get that attention of the other raven or eagle, and the boys are splashing around in the water, and the girls are like, I don't care about you. Shuká Hít, go! We are Yeah, we have 5:22. We had a half an hour. We can't go exit yet. Is that okay with you? One more song? Okay.
We are hey, Yaha. We are Yaha.
this day in particular is quite special. We have the 10-year anniversary of this building existing, so that's part of why all of this stuff is happening right now. But we do host events like this pretty frequently, and every other year we have celebration, which is basically this for 4 days.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Introduce our speaker this evening. Miranda Belarde-Lewis is an associate professor of Northern American Indigenous Knowledge at the Information School at the University of Washington. She's an independent curator and a Tlingit clan member. Her work highlights and celebrates Native artists, their processes, and the exquisite pieces they create. She has worked with tribal, city, state, and federal museums to create Native-focused educational programming, publications, and art exhibitions. Belarde-Lewis holds a BA in Cultural Anthropology from the University of Arizona, an MA in Museology, and a PhD in Information Science from the University of Washington. She is also the guest curator of Raven in Motion, the exhibit currently on display here at SHI. Her vision shines through every aspect of the exhibit, and we are so thankful for the work she put in to make it happen, and that she's able to join us tonight to speak about it. There will be some time for questions at the end of the talk, and I hope you will look in the exhibit before you leave tonight. It will be open until 7 p.m. And now I will ask you to please silence your cell phones and join me in welcoming Miranda Belarde-Lewis.
Kunaltish, skik, yuchat tuasak, yet nahatati, takdingtan ayachat. Good evening, everyone. My name is Miranda Belarde-Lewis. My Tlingit name is Skik. My Zuni name is Tsatanadita. Dakdingtan from our family is from Huna. And I'd like to acknowledge my aunties here in the audience, Auntie Ellie, Auntie Janie, Cousin Anna Marie, my family, my husband, and my children, and friends and colleagues that are here and watching online as well. You know, Raven, when I was asked to curate this exhibition, it was kind of nerve-wracking. Number one, because to do anything for your community is kind of scary. And you open yourself up in a vulnerable way to criticism as well as praise. I would like to say critique is a gentle way of saying that, but to do anything at home is a big honor and a big risk. And I just like to thank everybody here at SHI for extending that honor and that risk to me. You know, and it was also scary because I've worked with Preston Singletary on Raven and the Box of Daylight exhibition, which is still touring the country in its, we're starting our 7th year traveling the United States, and will eventually find its way home here to Juneau. But what do we do in a different way to talk about Raven? And how do we do that in a way that doesn't offend our chalk, the other half of us, our eagle half? And the only thing I could think of was to make this about Raven the being, not Raven the clan member, and not Raven the clan symbol. I'm Raven myself. Duckdane is on the Raven side. And to do that in a way that doesn't offend is we had to be very gentle and very delicate, very thoughtful. And so much thank you to Amberly, who is brand new to the job when she's jumped into this exhibition, and to Emily, who has been learning so much along the way in her years of working here at SHI. And so together, we came up with Raven in Motion. And so thinking about how Raven got his fingerprints, his paw prints, his claw prints in all of these different aspects of Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian life, it was really important to think about how Raven thinks and moves and operates as a spiritual being, as a clan member, also as a bird. And how does this happen through our stories? How does this happen, and how is it documented? Our history, our cosmology, and our way of thinking about our purpose in life and the lessons that we can learn from Raven is being documented in this incredible set of stories that have been around, like Jackie said, since time immemorial, but have been documented in this huge book that will come out sometime soon. It's been in the making for many, many, many years, and we have to acknowledge Dick and Nora Dauenhauer, who were so important to what we know and how we study Tlingit art, culture, and oratory, the speeches that our people are famous for. And so Dick and Nora started collecting these stories that had been previously documented throughout many, now hundreds of years, by anthropologists, by ethnographers, by linguists, by scholars, and by community members. And so now there is this giant book that's going to be incredible resource of Tlingit stories, stories that are recorded. The storytellers that are featured in the book are Frank Italio, Andrew Wanamaker, Robert Zuboff, Susie James, Frank Dick, Austin Hammond, and Catherine Mills, who is Ellie's mother, my auntie grandma. And these Raven stories, you know, we know some of them, and some of them are quite famous. Like Raven and the Box of Daylight is a very famous story, and one that Preston and I chose to explore through his glasswork, through his art. There's so many more Raven stories. Just a few that are told by these different storytellers in this book are Raven and his uncle, Raven and the whale, of course, Raven and the daylight, Raven and the flood, how Raven made the Aleutian Islands, how Raven acted upon the land, Raven in the House of Souls, when Raven pretended to build a canoe, Raven in the salmon box, Raven loses his eyeballs, Raven gets his nose yanked off, and why Raven is always hungry. those are just a few of the stories that are told by these different storytellers. And I really love, when the book comes out, I really love the way that there is one story that will be told by 3 or 4 different storytellers, because then you can hear the differences if the storyteller is a male or a female, or you can tell the differences if somebody is inland Tlingit or coastal Tlingit. Or you can tell the difference of maybe this was recorded in the 1800s or maybe in the 1970s. And all of these different details that don't change the story, but they do help to illustrate how Raven has been ever present in our lives. So I thank Dick and Nora for their commitment to Tlingit language and culture and documenting it in a way that makes sense for now, so it can be a resource for all of us into the future. So as you go into the exhibition, I hope that you pay attention to the different sections of it. I'm not going over all of the sections right now. I would like to leave some time for question and answer, so please think of your question, and hopefully I'll have an answer for you later. But Yéil, his Tlingit name, Yéil, he's a transformer, and he is a shapeshifter and is very famous for that. And so in these images here, these are from Preston Singletary. This is part of Raven in the Box of Daylight, the traveling exhibition, which will be opening in Spokane next month. And it's a transformation mask made out of glass, but it also, the feather on the right-hand side is that moment when Raven was trying to sneak into the clan house, much like this clan house, to gain access to where the moon, the stars, and the sun were being held. He first transformed himself into a speck of dirt and then was found in a feather and tossed out by the servants, by the attendants, to the young lady who later became Raven's mother. And to capture this and this moment of transformation shows that Raven has this ability, and he's always changing his form. Now, in that story, and several versions of that story, Raven, to signify his spiritual nature, was started off as a white being. And we see this in many different cultures where a white buffalo or a white whale, I just saw a video of a white dolphin and a white killer whale have been seen. And this, for many indigenous people, signifies a moment of change, a moment of transformation in the world. Something is shifting, and this is a special moment, something we should pay attention to. And other indigenous cultures believe that this white being also has supernatural abilities. And in the stories of Raven, where he starts off as a white being, this is when his form was very fluid, and he could shift from bird to a speck of dirt to a plant to a hemlock needle and drop his way into his cup to be drunk by the young woman. And so here, I'm blanking on his name, Robert Mills has carved this white raven mask. It's pictured alongside one of Preston Singletary's glass sculptures that is a white raven. By the end of the story, he is held over smoke of the fire and is changed into the bird that we know today, the black bird that we know. But in this moment, this shows that he is has this ability to transform. Yéil, the terraformer, we have many stories of how Raven shaped the land. One of the stories that's coming out in the Raven book is about how he created the Aleutian chain, that string of islands that is on the other side of Alaska, and where our Anungan relatives live. And so if you think of how the land has been shaped, and the SHI team here did me a huge solid and put all of the names of places that have Yéil in the name identified on the map. And so you can go and see in the exhibition, there's all these places that have stories attached to it. And if it has Yéil in the name, then Raven has definitely been there and has imprinted literally onto the land. to let you take a look here, because we don't even know if all of the names that Raven, all the places that Raven has imprinted in other parts of Alaska, because we're very southeast Alaska focused here, and as we should be. But just to think that this is the start of where we know that Raven was. Yéil the Fashionista. This print is in the exhibition. This is Malibu Barbie by Raven Owl tribal member Allison Bremner. And this has a pair, these spikes that are on the sides, those are high heels. That's Raven in high heels, because Raven is flashy. Raven loves shiny things. We know this about ravens. And so if Raven was going to dress themselves now, they'd probably be in high heels. And just because they're very flashy, they get a lot of attention, and that's what Raven is really good at. And so to think about that as you go through the stories and you think about Raven regalia, and to think about all the Raven relatives that we see during celebration, and how everybody gets inspired from each other's regalia, is such a beautiful thing to be able to grow and evolve with each other and be inspired by each other, not to see it as a competition, but to want to do better because we see other people leveling up. That's how I think of Yéil the Fashionista. We see this also in dance groups. This is Robert Davidson's group when they do their Lovebird song. We heard a lot of Lovebird songs this evening, and I heard throughout the day. And to think about how Raven is part of that balance. Where Tlingit, I can't speak for Haida or Tsimshian peoples, but it's a very common thing for Native and Indigenous folks to really be concerned about balance and harmony, and how we can strive for that. It doesn't mean we'll always achieve it, but to have that as a goal is an important goal for us to keep. And the Lovebird songs always bring that back to that balance between the moieties, between the raven and the eagle. They should be paired up, so that way we can start moving towards balance. We have Austin Hammond really deeply influenced this exhibition. Austin was one of the first people to work with the translations from Tlingit to English of the Raven stories. And there was always Austin was always looking for parallels, in many ways, just like Walter Porter was looking for parallels to other philosophies and religions around the world, to find out what the morals of the stories were. And when the Raven stories teach us these morals, we're supposed to get something from that. In any stories, you can look at biblical stories, you can look at, my father's side is Zuni, so we can look at Zuni stories and look for the morals of, they're supposed to teach us how to live. And so if we draw inspiration from that, you can see this expression in the artwork as well. This piece is called Atu from Nick Galanin, who is a Shuká Hít artist from Sitka. And this piece is a bentwood box, but it has like a lock on there, almost like a safe. And the lock part has fractions going from 1 all the way to 1/16, all the way down to 0. And this is his statement on blood quantum, and how we're keeping culture locked down if we exclude a part of our community because we say they're not Tlingit enough, that they're not Haida enough, they're not Tsimshian enough. And we're doing that to ourselves through the system that we've adopted of blood quantum. Tlingit and Haida has changed. We're going from descendancy. That's how some of my own family members have been enrolled to Tlingit and Haida. But to keep it locked down is to take our own selves to that 0 point where we're no longer existing. And if we decide that we have to lock our culture down so much to the point that you have to have a full 1 or a full half to be able to access the culture that is inside of this locked box, we're just going to be locking our family out. And I know there's a contentious thing because there was a recent meeting that caused a lot of uproar about our family members that live outside of the homelands. And in a similar way, if we're excluding a whole section of our community because they don't get to live right here, then we're doing this to ourselves. We don't have anybody else to blame for keeping this lockbox locked. And to think about how Austin Hammond keeps on, he kept such a focus on the morals of Raven stories, and to think about how the artists in this exhibition are commenting on the morals, how the art reflects our societies right now, our societies back then, is one of the most beautiful things about art that, in my opinion, is that it is a constant mirror that shows us who we are at that moment that it was made and who we strive to be in future moments. We start the exhibition with this quote from Nora Marks Dowenhauer that Raven is timeless and today. And so if Raven is timeless, then he fits in at any point during the stories. It doesn't matter when they were recorded. I've had people ask me, well, when was the Raven and the Box of Daylight story, when was that invented? I don't know. When was sand invented? Probably around the same time. I don't know. But a long time ago is the answer, right? And since time immemorial is something that we say, but, probably 40,000 years. If you want to go on anthropological time, 40, 50,000 years, somewhere around there. But it doesn't really matter because we have them now. And Raven is so much a part of our life, so much a part of our stories, our morals, the way that we think about how we behave as humans in relationship to Raven, in relationship to the values and to the characteristics of the being of Raven himself. And a couple years ago, a white raven showed up in Anchorage. And the internet went crazy. People in Anchorage went crazy. There's Facebook groups that it's a white raven sighting. So if you join the group, it'll have like real-time updates of where the white raven is around. So people go over here and it's like, we're following this trickster around. And then you find him and this white raven is just eating a piece of pizza. And so the Raven is timeless and Raven is today. And so if we think of how all of this works together, the stories, the art, the fashion, the values, the morals, all of this works together to help show us the way. And Raven has been doing this the entire time. So since time immemorial, since the time of sand, all of this time and into the future, as long as there's, in down south where we live in the Seattle region, they say as long as the rivers flow. And so as long as the rivers flow, Raven will be here with us leading the way. Gunachish Lane to Rosita Worrell, Chuck Smythe, Amberly Wallace, Emily Galgano, John Loring, the whole media team, Sealaska Heritage Institute, and especially to Dick and Nora Dowenhauer. Thank you. And I believe we have time for some questions. Not those questions, Kutsi. Hi, Carmen.
Test. Yep. Any questions?
Thank you for that great talk, Miranda. It was really great. Did all of the pieces come from the SHI collection?
No, we have a couple pieces that are on loan from a private collection, but unless they say that, they're all from the SHI collection.
I'm just going to quick follow-up, sorry. And is there a piece that you wish you could have gotten in the show that you were unable to bring in?
probably one of Preston's white ravens, the glass ones. That would have been lovely. But, you know, the real goal was to have it be about raven stories, all the stories in the book. And so we don't have the art to support all of these different stories. So this is incredible opportunity for artists to read the stories, to learn the stories, and then make art about Raven and his uncle, Raven and the whale, Raven and the flood, how he made the Aleutian chain, how Raven acted upon the land, how Raven in the House of Souls. I mean, that sounds pretty heavy, you know? But then there's also how he pretends to build a canoe, which sounds funny. I don't know if it is. I haven't read it yet, but it's just the titles themselves. You know, there's so many. I mean, we have stories about Raven and Petrel. We have Raven in the water, Raven in the flood. And so there's so many opportunities for us to explore Raven through the art. And so that's really was my wish. So I need a benefactor to commission all of these artists to make all of it. And then we had this discussion at one point, and they said, well, how would they decide? Draw their name out of a hat. You know, this artist makes this story. This artist makes this story. That's my solution. I don't know if it would work, but to make it more egalitarian in a very highly structured system. Thank you.
When can we expect the book?
That's above my pay grade. I actually don't work here. I am a guest curator here, but it's been in the works for a long time. I know that they're getting close, but I don't know what close means. Yeah. Hey, Carmen.
Well, I know that traditionally, possibly, the eagles would do the work for the ravens. So does that send a lot of work our way for the eagles?
I suggested pulling names out of a hat, not commissioning the other side.
So just which was your favorite piece from the show?
It's my favorite piece is probably I really like the stamp of the Raven Dancer right next to the painting by Evelyn Vanderhoop, because Evelyn is famous for her weaving, and there's a painting by her which is in the SHI collection, and to see that they made a stamp of it a long time ago. You know, we know Rico's stamp, and we're very proud to put Rico's stamp on our letters, but there was a stamp before of a Raven Dancer, and to see the painting next to the stamp, I really like that pairing. And it's not a piece in there, but I just love those little raven prints. So when you walk in on the floor, there's these little vinyl stickers that lead you into this spiral that shows Raven in motion, in movement, even though these are stationary cases. But there's little Raven prints, like Raven was jumping through there. And then in the jewelry case, there's these little tiny gold Raven prints that follow, that show you this path that he would have taken and leads to this Raven wearing sneakers.
I would just love to hear some of your favorite real discussions you had, because it seems the complexity of the thought put behind this is very creative. And as a teacher, I'm like dreaming of how we get kids to think in that type of space with that level of creativity and depth of knowledge that you're bringing. I would love to hear what was some of your favorite or not favorite conversations, or your really tough conversations as you were curating this.
Thanks for that, Misha. I had an idea that it was going to be about Raven in motion, but we didn't have that title yet. And so then it really took me coming up here and looking at the pieces and putting on gloves and touching the pieces, moving them around, seeing what was in front of us to work with, to put them into groups, to think about what tied that little group together. And that's a pretty common curatorial practice, is to look at groupings. And so I think if you took some random assortment and gave them to kids in your class and said, what do they have in common? And then let them figure out what this little group has in common, would be really interesting to see that through young people's eyes. And then there's always a budget limitation, right? So in the classroom, in research projects and book projects and curatorial projects, there's always a cutoff of money. And so what can you do with the money that you have? Where can you push it a little bit? Is this just, no, this it's not going to happen, just give it up kind of thing. And learning how to negotiate that is not easy, but it's getting easier for me to just ask, as a curator, because I don't know the budget. I guess I could push to find out, but that's usually very proprietary knowledge in a curatorial project. And so we just keep asking until they say no. And then they say no, and then you ask a little bit more, and then if they really say no, then you know that there's no way to stretch the money right there. But that's getting easier, and being around people that have, I've been told before, just don't blink when you're asking. Just don't blink. I learned that from my husband. And so it's really come in handy, because no, I'm serious. This is what I want to do. And learning how to take yourself seriously is a big, big thing that there's no magic. Do this, and then all of a sudden you'll take yourself seriously. Key for that. But earlier I said that this was a really big, intimidating ask to do something for SHI, especially because I didn't get to grow up here. I grew up in Zuni in New Mexico and came here every summer, but thankfully came here every summer, so I know my family and my family knows me. But to try to figure out where's the boundary between proper, improper, when you don't know, because you don't know the day-to-day, is a very delicate balancing act. And just to be humble enough to know when not to step over that line, and have people that you trust telling you, no, we're not going to do that. It's just to believe them that that's really not the fight I want to take, or maybe that is the fight I want to take, but just going in with open eyes is something that was part of the negotiations for this exhibition. And just at some point, you just have to trust the team.
Any more questions? All right. Well, thank you so much, Miranda. Let's give her one more round of applause.
Thank you, everyone, for joining as we've celebrated the 10th anniversary of the opening of the Walter Soboleff Building. We've had a full day. This is our culminating event. And as I told you this morning, if you were here with us, Sealaska Heritage Institute is a nonprofit organization, and it sounds like Miranda's exhibit keeps getting more expensive, or kept getting more expensive. So as a nonprofit organization, Sealaska Heritage relies on donations and contributions and grants. You can make a contribution of an amount appropriate for you and your family at sealaskaheritage.org/giving. Please consider donating today. It is more critical now than ever. Thank you, and please enjoy the exhibit. Sheesh.